Welcome to Movie Recap. In today's video, we'll be going through the 2021 romance drama movie, The Last Paradiso. Turn on subtitles and spoilers ahead. In the olive fields of an Italian farmland, the local mayor's daughter, Bianca Schettino, is having some sly little fun with farmer Ciccio Paradiso. Their illicit affair is in full display to Bianca's sister Maria. After their idyllic time together, Ciccio kisses Bianca and reminds her to meet elsewhere later. As for Maria, she's made to stay quiet about the whole thing. There's a good reason why Maria has to stay quiet, and a part of it is the fact that Ciccio already has a wife named Lucia and a son. While his mother, Nieta, is preparing bread for lunch, she asks Lucia where Ciccio is, but Lucia is just as clueless. Later on, Bianca's father, Juan Schettino, and her brother, Cosimo, are monitoring the harvesters in this olive farm. When his daughter brings him some food to eat, Juanpa instructs his harvesters to take a break, and he sends a beautiful woman to his barn so that she can rest too. While Ciccio is on his way home, he gets confronted by another one of his mistress as she is upset with him for spending more time with the mayor's daughter than with her. In turn, Ciccio casually calms her down before taking his leave. Ciccio's eating when he asks Nieta about what she thinks of their home. Ciccio is openly discontented about it and even expresses his desire to leave. He then brings up his brother, who's living overseas, and how he doesn't write to them, but his mother assures him that they're always in his brother's thoughts. As for Mayor Juanpa, he's forcing himself on a woman he sent to his barn, while Maria can hear the poor woman scream. That same night, Ciccio finds his friend Vincenzo in a bar, and together they observe Don Luigi underhandedly buying a farmer's harvested olives for a small amount of money. Unfortunately, the farmer is forced to accept his disgustingly low offer because of his financial needs, and he heads home defeated. Just as another farmer approaches to swap his harvest for Don Luigi's meager offer, Ciccio interrupts them and begins his protest. He humiliates Don Luigi by declaring that he will buy all farmers' harvest for the proper price, while stressing that he's had enough of the out-of-towners sucking their blood. In the face of Ciccio's protests, Don Luigi smirks and walks away, leaving Ciccio to spend the night with the farmers. When Ciccio comes home from breakfast, he has a serious discussion with his father, Senj U Diavul, about landowner corruption. His father, however, angrily tells him to mind his own business, while Lucia interjects to express how furious she is since Ciccio didn't come home last night. Ciccio just walks away from the table while his wife goes on a tirade about his infidelity. He later meets Bianca at the secret rendezvous. With romantic French music playing from a phonograph, Ciccio tells her all about how he wishes to move far, far away with her. They kiss passionately under a large olive tree and slowly dance to the music. Juanpa and the brigadier listen to Don Luigi's complaints about Ciccio. He feeds the mayor's ego by reminding him that he controls the majority of the states there, making him the boss. And so Juanpa decidedly tells Don Luigi that he'll take care of the farmers' revolt. With Don Luigi departing, Juanpa asks the brigadier to fetch some of the farmers while he will deal with Ciccio himself. Ciccio is summoned that night, and so his buddies are causing a ruckus outside of Juanpa's home. He assures them that he'll take care of this, and with that he enters the estate with his companions wait for him outside. Once he's inside, Juanpa asks Bianca to fetch him a drink. He then questions if Ciccio knows his daughter, and Bianca instinctively denies knowing him. The mayor proceeds to talk about his relationship with Ciccio's family, explaining that Sens was just like a brother to him. Juanpa even knows Ciccio's grandfather, who moved overseas to live with a much younger woman. He then cuts to the chase and recounts how Ciccio humiliated Don Luigi. Unmoved, he boldly retorts that Don made his riches by buying the goods for cheap and earning 3 times more than the farmer who have dedicated their blood, sweat, and tears into their harvest. Ciccio goes on to say that, like his father, he will never yield and he will wage war against anyone who stands his way. He finishes off his tirade by adding that they, the farmers, hoe the land so that they will make the price. Ciccio's spiel is met with Juanpa's laughter. and he compliments him for his confidence as he shakes his hand. With Cosimo guiding Ciccio outside, Wampa silently watches him and his friends walk away. Later that night, two farmers pretend to hitchhike with Don Luigi's car, only to beat the man up to a pulp and leave him unconscious on the street. Morning comes and a beat-up Don Luigi files his complaints to the cops. That night, Ciccio sneaks into Bianca's room to wake her up. They silently traverse the estate until they arrive at Kwampa's barn. There, Ciccio confesses his feelings, her true love for her, while he caresses her face. Bianca asks if he loves Lucia, and though Ciccio claims that he does, he says that Bianca is different. She's something that doesn't exist there. They turn the haystack into their love nest, and they let their hormone-filled bodies drift to bliss through the night. The following day, Bianca tells Mariah about all her wonderful night with Ciccio and admits that she left him sleeping in the barn. But when Kwampa instructs Cosimo to tend to the horses, Mariah volunteers so that she can cover for Ciccio and her sister. She manages to keep her brother from finding Ciccio and eventually letting him to leave. Wampa later chats with one of Ciccio's acquaintances about what happened with Don Luigi. He pays him some money to settle over the matter. When Ciccio and Lucia are at church, they have a serious conversation with Lucia lamenting his infidelity. He tries to console her, promising that he loves her, but they want different things. A sin to Lucia isn't one for him. After some time, he meets with Bianca, who informs him that her father may have already discovered their relationship. Ciccio comforts her, telling her that he can't wait to see her in a beautiful gown. He hands Bianca a letter, asking her to read it. Ciccio plans on delivering it to her father so that they can depart to visit his brother overseas and continue their love affair. Later, Cosimo confirms his father's suspicion by telling him that Bianca met Ciccio, enraging him. He promptly asks Mariah about her sister's whereabouts, so she immediately lies. When Bianca arrives, Kwampa chastises both his daughters as he disappointedly announces that he's been raising a liar and a tramp. But Bianca isn't fazed by her father's harsh words. Instead, she undresses in front of him. She boldly asks him why he doesn't look like he's enjoying the sight. When she knows for the fact that he enjoys making the little 15-year-old take their clothes off in the barn, Kwampa looks away from his daughter's bareness, leaving Mariah to cover Bianca's body and take her away. Later that night, Ciccio strokes his sleeping wife's hair and looks at his son. Afterwards, he sits on the stairwell of his home, contemplating the letter that he prepared. The following day, Ciccio meets Kwampa alone in the farmlands to hand him the letter. Kwampa says that it'll take him a day to finish reading before taking Ciccio with him to survey his property. While boasting about how rich it is, despite the heat, the mayor begins to dig the dirt with a shovel and ushers Ciccio to inspect the soil. Ciccio follows suit, but suddenly Kwampa would hit his head several times before castrating him. The townfolk and Ciccio's family soon find his corpse displayed in the town square. Everyone grieves the loss of a brave man who fought for them, as Sens cleans up his son's bloody corpse, crying and mourning his death is all that he could do. Elsewhere, a mushes factory worker named Antonio is summoned by his manager to inform him of his brother's demise. Antonio is Ciccio's twin brother, and their faces are the splitting image of each other. Meanwhile, the police are arresting the farmers who are affiliated to Ciccio, leaving their families with little to do but watch as they're being carried away. Days later, Antonio arrives in his hometown. He immediately consoles his mother and sister, Mariela, who tells him about how Kwampa murdered Ciccio and how they want to leave the town now. Antonio hugs Lucia too, and while the family prepares for a funeral service, Antonio spends a moment alone watching his brother's corpse. Bianca attempts to depart from her family to watch Ciccio get transferred to his final resting place, but Cosimo tries to stop her. Bianca, however, threatens to kill him, so he leaves her be. While the town mourns Ciccio's death, Bianca stands by, grieving and unable to reach her lover. Antonio walks into the town the next day and goes to the police station. He inquires about his twin's death, but since the brigadier is unable to provide him with the information he seeks, Antonio simply departs. Outside, a man snaps at Antonio, declaring that his brother is in prison because of Ciccio. Fortunately, Vincenzo is there and he drives the man away. Vincenzo then gives Antonio a brief overview of his brother's life, explaining that he'd been sleeping with a lot of women and causing commotions left and right when he was still alive. In the Paradiso household, Antonio witnesses Mariella yelling at Sens for not confronting the man who murdered his very own son. In turn, Sens calmly answers that Ciccio made a mistake and paid a price for it. Ninetta and Mariella have left dejected while Sens tells Antonio that Ciccio had to be a criminal to face evil. But since he wasn't, he paid the price with his life. Antonio then informs him that he's leaving. So he instructs the son to forget about everyone and everything and to never return. Before leaving, Antonio pays a visit to Schettino family to see Quampa. Cosimo sees him from a distance and locks Bianca inside a room. The men of the Schettino family come face to face with Antonio. They insult him and banish him, for the Paradiso family isn't welcomed in their territory. Antonio admits that he knows that Quampa killed his brother, but the mayor retorts that it's better that way and his brother deserved to die. Antonio's response is calm. He warns Quampa that his greed will be his downfall, and that there is a law that governs everything. But before he could finish, Quampa interjects that he has the law in the palm of his hand. He warns Antonio to leave lest his father loses a second son before slamming the door on him. After Antonio says his goodbyes to his families, Vincenzo escorts Antonio to the bus so that he can return home. However, it is revealed that before he left the Schettino residence, Antonio had ambushed Quampa in his stable. The ambush resulted in the murder of both Cosimo and Mir Quampa, and their blood is in Antonio's hands. Their bloodied garments are placed in the middle of the town to be displayed, while Maria screams in terror upon discovering their bodies. Seeing their brother and father dead, the two sisters are distraught. Over the next couple of days, Bianca and Maria seek the assistance of the police, but they have no authority over the people of their neighborhood. There is no honor in Quampa's death. His legacy is spat on by the townsfolk who refuse to provide him with even a twinge of sympathy. It's a direct contrast to Ciccio's own death, which was mourned by everyone in the town, without anybody to turn to. Bianca asks Don Luigi for assistance in tending her father's farmland, but Luigi is too enamored by Bianca's appearance to pay much mind. He strokes the grieving woman's tired face, but when he attempts to have his way with her, Bianca takes a fork and stabs Luigi's leg, leaving him in agony. As for Antonio, the man is working overseas again. Though he's clearly distracted while trying to assist a co-worker, the man injures his arm and Antonio is perplexed as he stares at the blood on the ground. Back at home, Bianca is working on the farm, but upon seeing a particular tree, she ends up languishing in her grief without Ciccio. She remembers the first time they met, when she was sat under the same tree with her sister. She sought his aid after being bitten by a snake, so Ciccio instructed her to close her eyes while he sucked out the venom. But instead of doing that, he kissed her before fleeing. In the present, Antonio meets with his lover, who happily shows him the apartment that her father had brought for them. But despite of the wonderful news, he continuously feels at loss after coming back from his hometown. Later, Antonio goes to meet with his manager, who just so happens to be his future father-in-law too. He tells Antonio to take a break from work, but since he insists on continuing the work, the manager shows him his gratitude. He also stresses that aside from being an important figure in the company, Antonio is now a member of his family, so he should look at his daughter. At night, Antonio sends a letter to Bianca, but when she receives it several days later, she just hides it under the drawer without reading its contents. The next day, Antonio visits a bar to get some beer. He strolls to port looking at the vast ocean and pondering the big decision he made. Antonio had left a letter to his lover, and she cries reading it. The letter reveals that he is leaving her to come back home from his roots. Eventually, Antonio arrives in town. Much to his mother's surprise, he later visits Schettino residence and asks Maria about her sister. She leads him inside the estate and lets him wait for Bianca. There, Antonio sees a picture of a beautiful woman, and Maria introduces her as her late mother. Stunned, Antonio hurriedly leaves the house and heads straight over to his father as he is doing his farm work. Antonio immediately asks about the photo in the Schettino residence, which is eerily similar to the photo he saw in Sen's wallet years ago. Finally, Sens reveals a dark truth about their family and the Schettinios. He confesses that Mariah is his illegitimate daughter, born from an affair that he had with the Schettinio matriarch. In tears, Sens admits that Nieta knew about the affair, but she kept it a secret. As for Bianca and Maria's mother, the woman had killed herself. Meanwhile, Bianca finally reads Antonio's letter while Antonio shaves his mustache at home, leaving his mother in tears. Later on, Bianca catches Antonio in town but gets surprised when he turns around looking exactly like his brother, Ciccio. She asks him about the letter he sent, so Antonio calmly approaches Bianca and whispers in her ear that he will marry her right then and right now. He asks her to close her eyes and Bianca complies. When she opens them again, flower petals are raining over her and she's wearing the dress that Ciccio had promised her for their wedding day. The townspeople gather around them while Sens takes her hand and walks her into the church with the Paradiso family in the town. In the end, Antonio accepts his retribution and lives the life that his deceased brother lived, as the townspeople's voice of hope and as Bianca's lover. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new movie recaps.